What's going on, PlayerProfiler Nation, and welcome to the latest episode of the Futurecast. I'm your host, Matty Kiwoom, and I am joined by my man here, the OG, Mr. Theo Gremminger. What's going on, Theo?
I mean, we're back, Matty, and we don't have much time to waste. We at the time we're recording this, through the magic of YouTube and StreamYard, we're able to pre-record things. So at the time we're recording this, we are 13 days away from the NFL draft. In 2 weeks from today, fellas, we are going to be talking about the landing spots for Marvin Harrison Jr., for Malik Neighbors. We're going to see which quarterback Washington selected, Jayden Daniels or Drake May. We're going to know everything from the first round, and then we're going to talk about which players we're looking forward to getting drafted in the second round. So it's getting real, Matty Kiwoom. I'm so excited because we've been doing this for a while. I need to start knowing some landing spots.
There's so much projecting that we do right now that just completely goes out the window in just a few weeks. And just so happens to be the best time of the year, the NFL draft weekend, baby.
You got that right. And we got a pretty fun guest tonight, too. Why don't you let everybody know who we have in the house here on Futurecast?
Well, we have a co-host of one of the shows here on Player Profile that everyone here tuning in to the Futurecast knows about, the Dynasty Roundtable, Matt Babbage. But what you may not know is Seth Diewold over here is the editor-in-chief here at Player Profiler. So all the words that we be writing, Seth sees them all the videos we post on YouTube, Seth sees them all. Seth is like he's like the Wizard of Oz of Player Pro. He's the guy behind the curtain. But I'm very, very excited to have him on because we've been chopping it up about the dynasty aspects of the rookie draft and the NFL draft. So, Sethy D, what's going on, brother?
Not too much. Just right before I hopped on here, I was actually editing Theo's NFL mock draft 1.0, which is going to come out tomorrow, 9 a.m. Central Time, whatever that is East, 10 a.m. East.
10, don't you disrespect.
Nobody knows Central Time. Nobody.
This is the craziest thing. So I live in Kansas City, and whenever I talk to Theo or Matt Kelly, the Podfather, or Matty's a little bit better, it's I mentioned Central Time, and they look at me like I'm speaking French or something like that. It's like it's not. It messes with the brain a little bit, but I look at everything. I'm like the mega mind around here at Player Profiler, and I love what I do. Just putting out the content for the people. NFL draft. It's grown man Christmas, as we all know. It's one of the best days of the year, and I cannot wait to be in the media room because I'm going to be there with my guys, Jason Alwine, Anand, and Dury on day one, bringing the content to the people. So I feel privileged. I feel blessed to be here with you guys too, talking a little rookie mock draft. So this is exciting.
And a big shout out, Matt Babbage and Seth host the Dynasty Roundtable. That drops right here on Player Profiler YouTube every Wednesday night. And you also will get a chance to hear that anywhere you get your podcasts. That's a must-listen-to show. And you guys are really putting out high-quality information that can help pretty much any Dynasty manager. So that being said, guys, we got to dive into this rookie class a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I have a couple questions for you guys, sort of a roundtable discussion before we do a mock draft. So everybody tuning in, being like, "Yo, Theo, where's my mock draft at?" Just wait a little bit because we gotta dive in a little pre-show questions. I'm curious, Matty. You know, you do a lot with your NFL draft preparation. Who's your favorite small school player right now? Maybe a guy that some people trying to get caught up to the NFL draft are not necessarily aware of.
So if you've been tuning into the Futurecast, you already know who I'm about to say, Dylan Lobby, out here in New Hampshire. He's a running back who can do it all. He can catch the ball. He can run the football. I've said this once. I'll say it a million times. It still blows my mind. In the game where the New Hampshire football team played Central Michigan, Dylan Lobby had 12 catches for over 290 yards. He went berserker. And I just think that this skill set that he possesses, this ability to be a weapon in a passing game, is going to be so good for fantasy, but it's very landing spot dependent. Small school guys is a bit nerve-wracking as you watch the NFL draft play out, but I do think that this skill set is so bright and he's put it's so much in the forefront of how the NFL's played that I do think he gets the draft capital, and I've put him in all my ranks, assuming he gets, draft capital that we can use as dynasty gamers.
Fourth round pick, I think 5th round floor. Give us a small school guy you're excited about.
Yeah, this guy's in the same vein as some of the smaller running backs that we've seen become more successful, and I don't know what he's going to get with the draft capital, but he's a smaller BMI guy, and that's Jayden Sheridan from Monmouth. I mean, we're talking 4.45 speed. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He was super productive. 1,478 rushing yards, 11 total touchdowns there at a small school. Again, I don't know if he's going to get the draft capital. That's going to be the big mystery, the big puzzle piece that's missing here. But when we look at running backs that have been more successful, we look at the way that the NFL's projecting the Devon A. Chains, the Keaton Mitchells, right? These smaller, even the Jahmyr Gibbs is a little bit undersized. That, like, Sheridan's way undersized. Like, he's 5'8", 187 pounds. But I think he's a good enough pass catcher. He's got some juice to his game. I'm going to be interested to see where he gets drafted. And that's going to determine how I feel about him big picture, but he's a guy I'm excited about.
Yeah, and I that was actually going to be my answer. I love Jayden. That's a really good one. And yeah, Sheridan's nasty, and he had a terrific NFL Combine, terrific Shrine Bowl. That's a guy that Matty Kiwoom and I have comped to Keaton Mitchell in terms of his potential. So I think he will get drafted, whether that's 7th round, 6th round. I think he's going to sneak in there. Incredibly productive too in high school. This is one of these guys, just like Lobby, where you have to think maybe they were a little under the radar where they ended up in college, and the pathways could have been different. If Sheridan ends up at Syracuse instead of Monmouth, is he a household name right now? And for me, you picked 2 running backs. I think what's interesting is Jalen Coker from Holy Cross is a guy that I think is going to be drafted, which is half the battle. Athletically, very impressive. And I can't recall a Holy Cross wide receiver ever in the NFL. So this is sort of a huge pathway to pass by for a player from this, like a Patriot League school like Holy Cross, to make the NFL. But I was really impressed by him at the Combine. And I certainly didn't watch Holy Cross game film, but the highlights I've seen, some of the plays look very NFL-like. So I'm interested to see about Jalen Coker, see if he can't slide into, round 5, round 6.
I love Coker. I really do. And also, he went from a 0-star recruit to the all-time leading receiver over at the school. And the fact that he got invited to the Combine, I think, Theo, is kind of winning half the battle. There are others. It's tough to get an invite to the NFL Combine if you come from one of these FCS schools.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And Sheridan was an NFL, Combine, all 3 of these guys. So, that's always a big win that these guys are not sort of under the radar. You think about the players they're invited over, guys like Blake Watson doesn't get invited to the Combine, yet, Sheridan does. So says a lot about what the NFL teams think about these guys. But guys, let's take a big step back. 2024, I've been asking this question on all my podcasts, so I want to bring this to Futurecast. If you could know the final stats, let's limit this to rookies. If you could know the final stats of any 2024 rookie for this year, which player would it be? Start with Matty.
Can I cheat? I'm going to cheat. I don't care. I'm going to cheat. I want to know who the RB1 is of the class.
That's cheating.
It's cheat. I'm going to cheat, though. I need to know the answer to this test because it's going to rattle so many second rounds before they even happen. Right now, we're about to get into a rookie mock, and it's going to be riddled with running backs in the round 2 because that's where the value is, and I think that we're on to something. But the NFL draft will be the great reset of which of our sleepers that are in round 2 fall out, which guys that we've been solidifying as round 2 picks are now out into rounds 3s and 4. I need to know who RB1 is. Let me get that answer, Theo. If I can ask anything, give me that piece of information because make my drafting a lot easier. I'll tell you.
The utter disrespect from Matty Kiwoom on that response. The very political Matty Kiwoom to avoid the answer. Matty Kiwoom just wants to know who the RB1 is in the class.
Gotta know.
I would like to know that as well. But Seth, do a little stronger than that. Tell us a player that you really want to know their final stats for in 2024. And you could take this to redraft best ball. Which rookie sort of unlocks things for you if you could know what you're getting?
I'll just go with the prospect that's baffled me throughout the process, and I think it's baffled a lot of people throughout the process, and that's Keon Coleman. Like, if you could say, like, Keon Coleman, it wouldn't shock me if he comes in. Landing spot it's dependent on landing spot for everybody, but he is a guy that I don't know what to do with, because he ran the 4.6 140, but he played basketball at Michigan State. A lot of people know that, and he's just an athletic freak. Like, when you watch his tape, he's just extremely raw. And so if I could know whether he gets off to a good start or not, I think it's going to be a pretty good indicator of like the trajectory of where Keon Coleman's going to go. So that could answer a lot of questions for people, because I'm pretty confident in a lot of these evaluations. I'm pretty confident, players like Ladd McConkey are going to be productive. Adonai Mitchell, I like a lot. But Keon Coleman's just one throughout the process where I was like, I probably should have him a lot higher, but I want to like him. I do, because there's a lot to like, but I just don't know what to do with him because he is so raw. So if you could give me the counting stats on Keon Coleman, that would help me out quite a bit.
Really wide range of outcomes type guy. That's a really strong answer from Seth. Guys, what player gets drafted higher than anticipated? What's the sort of the player that rises up and people say, wow, I can't believe he went in this round in the NFL draft?
The guy that comes to mind for me is probably going to be less shocking for the people who have been in the know, the people who've watched all these episodes of the Futurecast and other, rookie stuff that we've done at Player Pro. But I think the more casual that are just getting in now are going to be shocked to see how high Ricky Pearsall goes in the NFL draft. It's looking like he could be a round 2 pick. With teams like Pittsburgh Steelers, Jacksonville Jaguars being very, very keen on this player. He showed great hands at Florida. The production wasn't there, but the quarterback volume in terms of passing up hasn't really been all that high at Florida, including when Anthony Richardson was there a year ago. But he's got the highlight catch. We've all seen the one-handed catch. So he's got fantastic hands, good route runner. And I think he's a little bit more than just the slot type player. And I think the NFL is gravitating to those guys that you could put in motion. He comes out of the slot or the outside. Ricky Pearsall checks those boxes. And I think that at the end of the day, he ends up going ahead of potentially Keon Coleman. He goes ahead of Roman Wilson, potentially Tez Walker. So I think we'll see some good DC from Ricky Pearsall.
Love the answer. 2 early seconds for the Carolina Panthers, 2 early seconds for the Washington Commanders. You could see him landing in that 30 through 45 range fairly easily. Right. Every tape grinder loves Ricky Pearsall. And right now he's being kind of priced like the public's pricing him like a 3rd rounder, certainly on Underdog. So you could definitely get a nice boost. Seth, give us a guy that you think is going to be drafted higher than some people think.
Yeah, that's a great answer first, Matty. That's the first player that came to my mind. I was like, Ladd McConkey, because I've made the point, like, Ladd McConkey is so insulated as a rookie because there's no way that he falls past the middle of 2nd round. Ricky Pearsall's in that same category. I think
he's getting
NFL teams just love him, and I see him shooting up the mocks. This is more of speculation on my part, more of an evaluation on my part. But I think Malachi Corley is one of these prospects that could be drafted a lot higher than people think. And he looks like just somebody that Kyle Shanahan would absolutely love, like this yards after the catch monster that you can do so much with, like a Deebo Samuel clone. That's kind of been like Deebo Samuel Light's been my comparison for him for so long. And the big question is, and I think he can he run a diverse route tree? Can he run those deep routes down the field? We'll find out what some NFL team thinks of him, but he's another player that's super raw, super athletic, but get the ball in his hands, and he's unbelievable. I have him super high in my own personal rookie rankings, and we'll see. Like, I don't know exactly how the NFL is going to feel about him, but I have a sneaking suspicion that some team's going to like him quite a bit.
Where do you have him, Seth? Where do you have him in your rankings? I'm curious.
In my Superflex rookie rankings, now I'm not going to draft him here because I'm not going to have to. But I have him 13th overall in my Superflex rookie rankings.
Spicy.
I love him. Crazy. I love him.
He had a big pro day at Western Kentucky Pro Day. He crushed it, and it was sort of under the radar because nobody's paying attention to Western Kentucky. But Bruce Feldman has him mid-2nd round in the NFL draft. So I think there's a lot of people kind of projecting that there. And you brought up like the ADOT, but that's what was asked upon him. And also there's a guy that I think is going to get manufactured carries in the NFL, and you've seen how much value not only a Deebo Samuel, but a Curtis Samuel has. So I think there's some pathways for Corley to be very good in fantasy. For me, it's Will Shipley. I think Will Shipley is going to be drafted at the end of the third round. And I think a lot of people are not really prepared for that. I think that he could go ahead of a couple of running backs. Maybe I not necessarily love more than him, but have ranked ahead of him. I think that there is a chance that one of the guys that we have ranked ahead of him at Player Profiler falls to the fourth round. But some NFL teams are going to look at Will Shipley and say, at the very least, this is a guy that I can use as a receiver out of the backfield immediately in a running back by committee. He's very strong in the screen game. Early breakout at Clemson. I mean, we've sort of been on him at Futurecast before it was cool to be on Will Shipley, Matty. So hat tip to us. But guys, we got to we're 15 minutes in and we haven't made one pick yet. So why don't we take a quick break and we come back? Matty Kiwoom, who is on the clock right now?
So I gave it to you, Theo. I feel like I haven't given you the 101 in a while.
Matty, that's the nicest thing you've ever done for me. I can't wait, guys. We're going to be back in a minute.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from Player Profiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
The world's most famous Google document is back on the screen. Magic of Futurecast. While you were away, Matty Kiwoom loaded it up. For everybody listening on the podcast, we're going to be updating these picks, every 12 or so, and then we'll give you a final rundown when we get to the end of the show. But I'm not going to waste anybody's time. This is Superflex. So my 101 is easy. It's Caleb Williams. He'll be the savior of the Chicago Bears. He is going to break the Chicago Bears passing touchdown record either in year 1 or year 2. It's going to happen pretty quickly. He's the real deal. Don't overthink it. Caleb Williams, 101.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think throughout the process, at the beginning, it was more of a debate, I feel like, between him and Marvin Harrison Jr., but now it's clearing away. Caleb Williams has just completely separated himself, and he's going to walk into that situation with all those weapons. It's going to be amazing. But my pick here at the 102, as I'm up on the clock, is Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm going to go to the wide receiver, even though it is Superflex and Jayden Daniels and Drake May are tempting, but I just have Marvin Harrison Jr. in that elite tier of wide receiver prospects that I believe is likely going to go to someplace like maybe the Chargers, maybe the Cardinals. Who knows what's going to happen? I think worst case scenario is the Giants, but we'll see. Even there, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is good enough to earn a lot of targets right away and be super productive right away. So for me, it's a pretty easy pick.
I'm up with the 103. I'm going to take the guy on the left side of the screen. I'm going to take Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is my wide receiver one. I absolutely just love his ability to separate. I love his ability to get off the line. He's impossible to stop when it comes to his release. Reminds me a little too much of Antonio Brown. So he is going to be someone that if I have the 103 and he's available, Superflex or 1QB, run it to the podium.
Yeah, I love that pick. And again, we're not drafting. This is not like a draft where Theo has the first pick and then I'm the same team. I'm drafting the fourth. Essentially, there's 12 of us. If I was in a league, though, and I had taken Caleb Williams, I might push up a skill position guy. But I think when it comes down to it, I can't pass up the fantasy potential of Jayden Daniels at the 104. I think a lot of Superflex managers are going to have to make the Jayden Daniels versus Malik Neighbors decision. I'm with you, Matty Kiwoom. I think Malik Neighbors is just too good to pass up at the 103, but I think it's perfectly fine if you're QB needy to take Jayden Daniels. Incredible rushing upside for Daniels. I think this is the kind of guy who could put up massive fantasy scoring lines. And I'm hoping to see him in Washington with Cliff Kingsbury, a guy that we have seen have success with scrambling quarterbacks. But I don't think it's the end of the world if he ends up in New England either, in sort of like a do-it-all type scenario for him. So Jayden Daniels, 104, and I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I think, the fantasy upside is certainly, with the rushing ability of Jayden Daniels, you're probably going to have a super productive quarterback right away. But a lot of people are probably going to poo-poo this selection. But Roma Dunze is closer to Malik Neighbors than me, and I love Roma Dunze. I think we are blessed in this year's class to have 3 wide receivers that I don't feel like any one of them is going to bust. I don't think that we have to have this conversation like, oh, like one of these guys has to be the guy that. But I think all 3 of them are going to be super good in the NFL. So I have no problem selecting Roma Dunze here at the 105 ahead of Drake May, ahead of JJ McCarthy. I'll push down the quarterbacks in a Superflex league because I believe that's how good these wide receivers are.
Just right in my face as I'm sitting here preparing my little spiel about Rome at 106. You freaking swipe or no swipe me. You swipe Theo before, now you swipe me now.
And the other disrespect for Matty Kiwoom with the table talk too. Not only is Seth taking the guy that Matty wanted to take, but then that sneaky table talk where he just revealed like the 3 guys you could take instead. Disrespectful. What do we got? So Matty Kiwoom, this is but you got like a champagne problem here, Matty, at the 106.
This is why at the Futurecast and a number of our shows, we're preaching getting in the top 8. There are difference makers this late in the draft, and we could continue the table talk, but I'll just leave it to this. There's still 3, in my opinion, difference makers on the board. So you want to get inside that top 9, in my opinion. But here, I'm going to go Drake May. I love the upside, the rushing, the throwing, all of it's there. I think there is a long way to go in terms of his development, more than I would have thought. When you dive into the tape, he does make some bad decisions, has a little too much of that cowboy in his skill set. Once he refines that, or once he kind of gets that number 1 receiver, kind of like Josh Allen did, I think he could be a really mega producer in the NFL. He's right now my QB 2 for fantasy.
And to reiterate what Matty has said with the advice we've been trying to tell people to get inside this top 8 for months now is I'm sitting at the 107, and if I'm quarterback needy, there's a quarterback for me that's going to be drafted in the top 10. Or if I'm position averse, I can draft one of the best tight end prospects we've ever seen, and I'm going to go in that direction. I'm going to take Brock Bowers. I think he's a massive value when he's in the middle of the first round here in Superflex. This is a guy that I think could have multiple top 5 tight end seasons early on in his career. I'm not concerned that he didn't test at Georgia. This is a new breed of athlete. All the people angry about Marvin Harrison Jr. and Brock Bowers sort of being a little bit more removed from the process are probably the same people angry when guys sit out bowl games. This is going to be sort of the new norm, I think, when it gets to be these mega producers that sort of pop early on. I think Bowers is locked in. An NFL team is going to take him in the top 15 picks of the draft. He's going to be very good as a rookie, and I think he'll be great for his career.
I agree.
Yeah, and this is how blessed we are. At the 107, you're getting Brock Bowers. It's unbelievable. It's crazy, but that's just how good the top of this class is. And this class is also very deep, and we're going to get into it. But my pick at the 108, it's probably chalk, but give me the last quarterback that I think is going to be drafted in the top 10, and that's JJ McCarthy. I think there's a good chance that he winds up with Minnesota. I've been saying it all along. If he winds up with Minnesota, that is the best case scenario. It's the perfect scenario for a quarterback like JJ McCarthy, who probably could have benefited from staying another year in college at Michigan. I know why he chose to go to the NFL. Jim Harbaugh's not there. The team's not nearly as good. But landing spot for him is going to matter. And the rumor is, and Matty, maybe you can, I don't know, confirm or deny this, because if you're as plugged into the Pats as I am to the Bears, you might know an insider thing or two. But the rumor is that the Patriots just love him. And there's a chance that he gets drafted at pick number 3 ahead of Drake May. So we'll see, but I think Minnesota's the ideal spot for him. But either way, he's gonna start either this year or next year, and he has some insulated value in that way. So I have no problem. I think it's pretty clear pick here at the 108.
Awesome pick.
Yeah, and you have to take him there. I mean, and again, like the value of getting McCarthy, even if you're not a McCarthy guy, is he's going to have the NFL draft insulation in terms of where somebody's taking him. Seth sort of presents the floor. Like falling to 11, I think, is the floor now, where the floor for him 2 months ago would have been a little lower than that. You also have to look at, if you're in Superflex, whether you speak to Cody Carpentier or John Lobb or Matty Kiwoom or people from other networks like Brett Whitefield, I've asked pretty much anybody who evaluates college talent, JJ McCarthy would have been hands down the number one pick among all quarterbacks in the 2025 class. So help is not around the corner with somebody better than McCarthy in terms of tools. So that's a great pick. It's almost a no-brainer pick. Even if you don't need a quarterback, I think you have to do it at the 108.
There's such a value dip going from 108 to 109 with McCarthy, and I think that's solidified. But I think that this is now this was a bit surprising on the last episode of the Futurecast. It's going to be less surprising now, and I think by the time a lot of rookie drafts happen, it becomes the chalk pick, because a lot of things Seth just said about JJ McCarthy, I think we're going to be able to say about Michael Penix Jr. I think he's going to see first-round NFL draft capital. There's some interesting landing spots like Denver and Vegas that aren't the worst for a quarterback like Penix who could truly spin it. The NFL seems to be falling in love with his arm talent, and his mobility is always questioned because of the lack of rushing yards, but we have seen players go from the college level to the NFL level and run more because they have to, and because they really just didn't in college. And one guy that comes to mind in the most extreme is Justin Fields. He didn't run at OSU, goes to the NFL, can run for over 1,000. Now, I don't think Penix has that ceiling, not even close, but can he scamper for 200-300 yards, move around the pocket so he can throw downfield? Does he land on Seattle, gets DK? There's enough landing spots now in round one that I'm willing to take Penix at the 109.
Okay, so let's pause this for a second, because Matty, I think you could be kind of seeing the future here. Let's say I think Vegas at 13 is looking more and more likely. So I'm going to pose a scenario to you guys. We all agree that the top 8 is the little pocket to get in, the tier you want to be in. Okay, Dallas Cowboys select Trey Benson in the second round. Okay, the Buffalo Bills trade up 10 spots and get Brian Thomas Jr. as their de facto new wide receiver 1, and Michael Penix goes off the board at 13 overall to the Raiders. Who would be your 109 in that scenario? Let's start with our guest. Benson as a Cowboy in the second round. Brian Thomas Jr., let's say the 19th overall pick, Buffalo makes a trade up, or Michael Penix Jr. getting top 15 NFL draft capital. Seth.
That is a great question. God, in Superflex with that draft capital, I think you'd have to go Penix. I mean, that's a good enough. I mean, right off the bat, you have Devontae Adams to throw the ball to. It's one of these situations. I mean, it's probably a better situation than New England, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like way better. And yeah, I mean, Penix proved that he could be effective, an effective throw of the ball. And yeah, it wouldn't shock me if some team like Denver or Las Vegas, I mean, these clear teams with bridge situations right now at quarterback, I think he would have to be the 109, or I would take him above Brian Thomas. I mean, the Buffalo thing, like the Buffalo landing spot is just sick for Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
Like that's perfect. Yeah. Like that's the only thing where I'm going, man, like that would be awesome. And I guess both those landing spots are amazing, but
they're all amazing. That's why it's a hard question, guys.
I mean, maybe the cheap answer is like maybe trade down a couple spots and just get one of these 3 amazing spot players. But I guess it would come down to team need. But if you're asking me, I would take the quarterback in that situation, who's I think gonna get multiple years to start for them.
Matty, would you have had a different response if those scenarios would have presented themselves, or would you have stuck with obviously you're projecting Penix to be a first round pick as you took him at the 109. Would you stick with Penix?
I can't add anything to what Seth said. I agree with him wholeheartedly why I would go Penix with the 109. In Cody's recent mock that just came out on Roster Watch, he has him going 11th to the Vikings. So, I mean, this could truly skyrocket. But I think what we're preaching here on the Futurecast is, yeah, you want a top 8 pick, but if you can get the 109, 110, maybe 111, there is scenarios where, you just get the nuts landing spot for a number of these guys, and then they become rock solid, concrete first rounders.
Yeah, it's always fun to galaxy brain the landing spots when you're doing these future, rookie picks. But for me, I guess you guys also both kind of bring up the fact that if you're getting to Dynasty Theory, Superflex, even the quarterbacks you're sort of unexcited about drafting, if they're locked in starters, they end up having value to you. And Penix, I think, certainly has a higher ceiling than that. So I like the pick, and I like that, Matty, that's sort of like the trend we've been following on our recent mock drafts here. And he's been sort of a rocket ship ADP-wise. But at the 110 here, I'm going to go with Xavier Worthy. And Brian Thomas Jr. or Xavier Worthy are sort of the guys that I've been looking at. But I think Xavier Worthy could land very well. He had a top 30 visit to the Arizona Cardinals. I think he's going to get top 20 NFL draft capital. And I think there's certain teams that are going to view him and say, this is a guy that we can use like rookie year Jalen Waddle. And I think the targets are going to be higher than some people think. So I could go in a number of directions here, but I will go with Worthy at the 110.
And Theo, what you did there was further display how deep this round is. So we just talked through 3 perfect landing spots, and another player is still good enough to get in the round 1 given his talent. And I think one of the great landing spots that hasn't really been talked about, but I think could gain steam, Chris Ballard loves himself some playmakers. He just went on a 30 visit to the Indianapolis Colts. Watch out for Worthy to come off the board at 15.
Yeah, I love it. Which way are you going? Oh, I'm sorry, Seth.
Oh, no. I was just going to say about Xavier Worthy. I think we've all dispelled the lazy take that, the fast person at the NFL Combine. This is like Barney at the bar saying, the fast person at the Combine can't be good. Look at John Ross. Xavier Worthy's a different player than that. Yeah. Xavier Worthy is really good. I mean, there's multiple instances on tape where he is running really crisp routes. In fact, I was watching the Alabama game. They were like keyed and focused on Xavier Worthy to stop him because they didn't want to let him get loose. So that's a great pick. I'm going to go probably in a different direction than most people would because I just love Adonai Mitchell, and I'm going to take Adonai Mitchell here. I think he's nasty. Just watching some of the tape, especially in the red zone, he's got like quick, like Stephon Diggs like feet. And the ability to just separate. And I love both of these Texas receivers, and I love Brian Thomas Jr. too. But Adonai Mitchell's the pick for me because I just he's so good. I just love him so much.
I love that you said that. He's also could be Buffalo's pick at 28, and the whole consensus on the Adonai Mitchell haters are going to have to kind of adjust if that landing spot happens, guys, because I think that'll be extremely exciting. Matty Kiwoom, finish out the first round.
I can't believe he's here, but I am very, very excited to walk to the podium and write down Brian Thomas's name on my sheet here. Obviously, we know he can make big plays. Obviously, we know he's big, fast, and his ability to moss fools is up there. But when I watch more of this LSU tape, I think he's a little better than that. I do see more of the T. Higgins than I initially would have thought. I thought he was going to be more of that Terrace Marshall. I just was not about Brian Thomas, but I have grown to love Brian Thomas. And I guess a little of that also comes with the fact that he's here at 112, where just a few weeks ago, it's like you are deciding between him and JJ McCarthy at the 108. So I am a lot more happy and a lot more excited to be able to sit back at the 112 and get BT.
Quick recap of the first round for everyone listening on the pod. I took Caleb Williams at the top. Seth took Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 102. Matty selects Malik Neighbors at the 103. I took Jayden Daniels 104. Rome Odunze goes to Seth at the 105. Drake May back to Matty at the 106. Brock Bowers I selected at the 107. Seth takes JJ McCarthy at the 108, sort of ending our tier. Then Matty Kiwoom takes Michael Penix Jr. at the 109. I took Xavier Worthy 110. Seth selects Adonai Mitchell at the 111. And then Matty takes Brian Thomas Jr. And I am sitting here at the 201, guys, and I am going to take my RB1 in the class, Trey Benson. And I think that Trey Benson is going to be a first-round pick in Superflex rookie drafts if he lands sort of in the draft capital that I'm projecting. I think he's going to be a second-round pick. There's a number of second-round landing spots where I think we'll talk ourselves into being excited about enough. He's taken a number of top 30 visits. I'll throw out the nightmare scenario. Took a top 30 visit to Buffalo, a split backfield with James Cook. I would definitely be adjusting this. But we love Trey Benson's potential, what he can do athletically. I know Seth is a fan of his. Matty is as well. So 201 seems about right without knowing the landing spot.
Yeah, and there's so many good landing spots out there like that we're going to be monitoring. Obviously, the Cowboys, the Los Angeles Chargers are absolutely going to take a running back. I mean, they're not going to roll into the season with just Gus Edwards and Joshua Kelly and whoever else they have. There's no way. And with Jim Harbaugh wanting to run the ball a ton. So there is some just fantastic opportunity for a running back like Trey Benson to sneak up into that first round. If he gets one of those landing spots, I mean, forget about it. But my pick is maybe the most insulated rookie wide receiver that I can remember in this range, and that's Ladd McConkey, because there's absolutely no way, as I said before, that he gets past the middle of the second round, and there's so many good landing spots at the back end of the first round. Even like the Chiefs all of a sudden are in a situation where they might need a wide receiver. They might have, they probably needed one anyway, but with this Rashee Rice situation, who knows what's going to happen? He might be facing a multi-game suspension or worse. The Bills need a wide receiver. I mean, can you imagine like just some of the possibilities here for Ladd McConkey? And then, of course, some lesser ideal options, the Commanders. I mean, it's not terrible. The Panthers, not terrible. He's still going to be productive. I just think Ladd McConkey's probably the best route runner in this class, or he's up there. So he's nasty, man. He's just a nasty player.
Ladd McConkey's great, and you just made my decision here at the 203 a lot more difficult, because if he had fallen, it was the auto accept, auto submit. But here, I think, Theo talked about it earlier. We're not drafting as ourselves each pick. It's the draft slot. So it's like 12 of us. And as much as I want to take my RB1 here, I don't think I would be able to, knowing that Bo Nix is still on the board. Superflex setting here, Bo Nix still presents all the things that we liked a few months ago. He's still accurate. He throws with pretty good anticipation, meaning he allows his guys to get up the field after making the completion, which helps for fantasy. And I do think there are still some end of the first landing spots where it wouldn't be too crazy to see Bo Nix be the sixth quarterback in round 1 of the NFL draft. And even if he goes round 2 or even round 3, with Ladd McConkey off the board, it's a bit of a tier break where I think I want to take the guy who could get sneaky rushing yards and also become maybe a Sam Howell for a year and a half. And we know how valuable that is in Dynasty.
No, I like the pick. And I think that Bo Nix is going to be gone before like in the Will Levis range is kind of his floor. I think pick 45. Matty, he's not going to fall past that. So, there's a mixed bag of second round draft picks, how they produce in fantasy. But Bo Nix is 61 career starts. This is a guy that I think a lot of NFL head coaches are going to say, you know what? He's better than what I have. I'm going to give Bo Nix a shot. So I think he's fine. I just question his ceiling in fantasy, but I think that in terms of floor, he's fine. For me at pick 16, I could go a number of directions. But I'm feeling a little spicy. I'm going to go with Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman is going to be drafted towards the early part of the second round. I know we talked about, Ricky Pearsall and a couple of those guys in the pre-show that I'm sure might go in the next 10 picks here. But Keon Coleman, I think certain NFL teams are going to see as an alpha. He's 20 years old, and this is a guy that has athletic gifts, slow 40, but athletic gifts, the wingspan to be a high-end touchdown producer. Don't be shocked if the New England Patriots take him at the beginning of the second after getting their franchise quarterback.
Theo, you sent out a couple of questions. We didn't get to all of them. And one of the ones we didn't get to is which player 3 years from now are you going to be pissed that you didn't take?
Oh, man, I forgot to do that one. Let's do that at the end of this. Yeah, you want to do that one? Or?
I'm going to answer mine real quick right now. It's Keon Coleman. That was the guy I would have said because, yes, he wasn't as fast as we hoped. But we know the athleticism there. We saw how sick he was in the gauntlet, how fast he ran that gauntlet. the ceiling is still as high as we thought it was before the combine.
Yeah. And I'll say we had Pat Fitzmaurice on, and it was a friend of ours from Fantasy Pros, comes on the Sonic Truth and compares him to Mike Evans as a young player. Like that sort of sticks in the back of my head. And, Matty and I have talked about, with Cody and some other people about that 10-yard split in the 40. Like Keon Coleman runs a 4.6 40, but the 10-yard split was faster than guys like Troy Franklin. So I don't have concerns about him. I never thought he was going to be a burner, but I do think he's a beast. We saw the LSU game. We know it's there. So Keon Coleman, I think, is worth the risk when I don't have to use a first-round pick on him.
So I like that pick a lot. Just for the upside of it, I'm gonna mop up a little value on a wide receiver that's dipped a little bit in his value, and I'm just gonna take Troy Franklin here. Troy Franklin was a guy who, when we were doing mocks, like on Mock Draft Live, and I was doing mocks on my YouTube channel, he was a guy that was going back into the first round, early second round, and now he falls to the middle of the second round here at the 205. I'm perfectly fine taking him here because he was super productive in college. I like his tape. Guys like John Lobb, who break down the tape, had him really high pre-combine. Now his combine really hurt him and he's moved down. But this is still a guy that I think has the tools to be productive at the NFL level. And I think his draft capital, again, I would be shocked if he got outside of, the second round. That would shock me. I mean, I guess it's possible. So I feel like it's a prospect that is going to get pretty decent draft capital, and it's a prospect that I like before the combine. And so I'm more than comfortable taking him here.
That's kind of where he's been settling in, and after the combine in these mocks is in the middle of the second. I'm up with the 206, and I wouldn't be able to pass him up with this value here in the middle of the sixth. My running back one, Jalen Wright, the guy on the right side of the screen, home run ability galore of this class. He checks a lot of boxes, not in terms of being a workhorse, but being that modern day running back that could be uber efficient on limited touches and be a difference maker in the end zone. And I'm going to go Jalen Wright. Love him here in the second at 206.
I almost took him when I took Keon Coleman, so I like that pick a lot. I'll stay at running back because usually when we've seen these rookie drafts, and I think one thing to keep an eye on in your home leagues is the running backs, once somebody's selected, then we usually see a couple of the other higher end ones go. So I'm going to stick with our higher tier running backs. I'm going to take Jonathan Brooks. I think middle of the second is a great value for a player of his upside, considerable upside. And it bakes in the fact that he might not be there to start out the season. Let's go Jonathan Brooks right here at the 207.
Love it.
And I'll make it simple. It's a guy that I think now's the time. I think he's going to get drafted a lot higher, and he's the ultimate. I mean, he's the yak god in this class. I mean, I guess there's a lot of yak gods in this class. Lad McConkey, you could throw him in there. Malachi Corley's my guy, so I'm going to take him here at the 208. Just the play that's at the top of the highlights is when I can't remember who they were playing, but it just basically takes a wide receiver screen to the house and tacklers draped all over him. It's cartoonish what this guy can do at times. So Malachi Corley I believe he's unbelievable, and some NFL team's going to fall in love with him and take him really high in the NFL draft.
His nickname is literally the Yak King. Everyone, he is the Yak King. He led the nation in Yak, and Seth. I think that's really fine, and I think that Seth might be kind of seeing the future because if he is a mid-second rounder, the market's going to adjust on him pretty quickly. And it shows the strength of the class, Matty, like you keep bringing up, that Malachi Corley, like anywhere between 208 and like 304, 305, he's going to go somewhere in that kind of range. Definitely has the upside with that athleticism.
Oh, no doubt about it. I'm up here with the 209, and I see a name that I haven't gotten quite often in these mocks, but I would be very excited to get Blake Corum with the 209. We all still agree he could be the first running back off the board, and he's tied to a coach that is probably the number one dream landing spot for any running back. So Corum goes to the Chargers. This would skyrocket. We don't know that yet, but even with that, with just being a slight possibility, very, very excited to get the national champion Blake Corum on the squad.
The running back run here, and I'll take Marshawn Lloyd from USC. another guy that I think is going to be drafted on day 2 with sort of a floor of the 4th round. And guys, there's a chance that landing spots we brought up that are attractive, there's a chance Marshawn Lloyd could be the RB1 when we actually do our rookie drafts. I think he's that sort of profile, a guy who could absorb volume with size and has speed. Daniel
Jeremiah is number 1 ranked running back right now.
Yeah, that's high praise there. At the 211 here, I'm gonna just continue. You guys are picking off these running backs. I'm not happy about it, but I'll go ahead and take one of the other insulated wide receiver I talked about earlier, and that's Ricky Pearsall. I think Ricky Pearsall is a really good talent first and foremost. I know he's a little bit older of a prospect, but that video of him working out with, and I know this is, that we can fall into a trap with this stuff, but him working out with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and then it's Ricky Pearsall, it's crazy, that he's even, that he's able to, work out with those guys at that level. I just think he's a great route runner, and I think he's one of these prospects that is gonna, I don't think he's gonna be at the 211 by the time the NFL draft and we get a landing spot and draft capital. I just think he's gonna be probably mid-second. I think he's one of these risers. So Ricky Pearsall for me is the clear pick here.
I retweeted that. He's so twitchy.
Yeah.
Talk about Waddle and Hill, the twitchiness, and it's really not to get it's not that technical, but they move differently. Like Ricky Pearsall moves like an NFL pro of that sort of athletic level, which is really crazy to even say, but he showed it with the combine, and it's just, he's so quick and so twitchy. I love that pick. Matty, close it out.
Pearsall was one of our surprise picks early in the show. Malachi Corley was one of the others, and I'm going to go ahead and pick the third that we talked about early in the show, Will Shipley. Will Shipley's going to go here at the back of the 2nd round. I love doing these shows. I always say it's the most selfish thing that I could do is just get better at fantasy using my own shows. But we've now seen Will Shipley be available at the end of the 2nd in multiple rookie mocks, and I have actually gone out and been okay dealing for the 212 in multiple leagues.
And Cody Carpentier would be really upset if we didn't take Will Shipley inside of the 2nd round.
We got to do our boy right. Exactly.
Got to do it right. So let's recap this 2nd round. Really, really fun 2nd round. And guys, a lot of value here in the 2nd round. I started out the 201, Trey Benson at the 201. Seth takes Ladd McConkey at the 202. Matty takes Bo Nix at the 203. I took Keon Coleman at the 204. Back to Seth with Troy Franklin at the 205. Matty takes Jalen Wright at the 206. I took Jonathan Brooks at the 207. Malachi Corley goes to Seth at the 208, his flag plant guy. Matty takes Blake Corum at the 209. I took Marshawn Lloyd at the 210. Seth took Ricky Pearsall at the 211. And Matty closed out the 2nd round with Will Shipley at the 212. And this has sort of been every single mock draft I'm in, I'm doing something like this. Right around the 2-3 turn, I take Roman Wilson, and I just don't even think about it. He's a guy that's just falling for kind of the wrong reasons. Was so good at the Senior Bowl, then doesn't really participate in drills at the Combine, so didn't have the Combine buzz. And then you've seen these other wide receivers sort of get pushed up. But Roman Wilson's going to be drafted in the 2nd round, and the floor for him is going to be the 3rd round. Very, very fast. Big time potential in the NFL, and I'm getting, I think, a steal here in the 3rd round with this sort of level of wide receiver.
Sick value for sure.
Yeah, that's why, we've been telling people, not just my show, but all over the Dynasty content space at Player Profiler, to get these 3rd round picks, get these later round rookie picks in deals, because Roman Wilson at the 301 is silly value. It's just silly. It shouldn't happen, and it probably wouldn't happen in other classes. And there's still players on the board where I'm going, man, if this guy gets the right landing spot or the right situation, look out. And I'm going to go high upside here. And it was a guy that wasn't as big as we thought he was going to be. Some people were comparing him to DK Metcalf right off the bat, but we didn't quite get that at the Senior Bowl. But I still think he's got a ton of upside, and that's Xavier Legette. He's extremely fast, extremely raw. He didn't break out until super late at South Carolina, which is worrying. But at this stage in the draft, at the 302, shooting for some upside is what I like to do. And Xavier Legette has a ton of flash and a ton of upside. So that's the pick for me.
My next pick with the 303 is a player that has taken a bit of a tumble since the NFL Combine, but I think this fall presents insane potential value for Braylon Allen. He's still a beast. He's still probably going to get decent DC, considering he was an early declared for the draft immediately after his season. So I'm assuming that he believes that despite not running, he's still going to get some decent DC. So getting him in the early third was a pipe dream just a few weeks ago.
No, I like that one a lot. I mean, we could have taken him again, just like to reiterate what Seth said. It just shows the value of these early thirds because you don't know. And guys, I do think that the fact that there's so many players that people are bullish on, you're going to have different leagues look very different. It's not going to be quite as chalky between the mid third and mid second. So you might be able to get your guy a little bit later than you think. Braylon Allen, a perfect example. 304, I'm pretty wide open here. I'm going to go with Tez Walker here because I think he's going to get the draft capital. And this sort of range kind of presents itself where if he ends up busting, it's not going to burn me completely. But I think the upside with what he can do athletically, it's more of a positives than negatives things for me to take him here in the middle of the third. Tez Walker of UNC.
Tez is a guy that I've kind of soured on, but the ADP gets more and more lucrative that I might be back on him by the rookie season.
He might be a second round pick. And at the end of the day, it's like a guy who runs that well, a potential NFL second round pick. We can't have a closed mind completely to a guy like that. We need to be able to adjust. Like Matty said, let the NFL teams kind of tell you what they think of these guys. The difference between a second round Tez and a fourth round Tez is huge.
Big.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and stop the fall on somebody who's fallen throughout the process. He's actually in a video I posted on Player Profiler. He's one of the players that I hate. And then I said, my mom doesn't allow me to say the word hate. And that was kind of a funny thing that gets a laugh about a quarter of the time. But Jatavian Sanders, I'll go ahead and stop the fall for Jatavian Sanders. I think there's enough there to work with. I mean, I'm kind of playing the gamble game. Does he get the draft capital? I think he will. I think he'll be somewhere in day two. I think he's good enough. But obviously the NFL Combine hurt him quite a bit. But before that, I mean, people were extremely high on the profile of Jatavian Sanders. So we'll see what I get here. But I'm kind of gambling here in the third round. But I think there's some upside there.
Never seen people angrier about a 4.69 40 for a tight end.
Yeah.
You would have thought he's a 5'1" guy. And I certainly was disappointed. But when you go down the line of TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, there's so many players that are in that 4.7 range that have been very good for fantasy. This is not like some death sentence.
Yeah. Big follow, though. Big time follow. This guy was at the top of round 2 just a few months ago when we were doing these things. Still crazy how things can change. With the 306, I'm very happy to see him still available. Javon Baker, wide receiver from Central Florida. Doesn't do anything great, but does everything really well. And I think that might cause his draft capital to suffer, but I think his emergence on an NFL depth chart will be easy work for a guy that can kind of do it all. A guy that isn't the fastest, but man, can he catch a ball and can he run a bunch of really, really solid routes?
So I'm not sure if I'd have to take him here unless it was a tight end premium scoring or if the draft capital was insane. But I will follow up with the JT Sanders pick to take sort of the other tight end that I'm interested in this range, and that's Ben Sinnott of Kansas State. I do think he's going to get some interesting NFL draft capital, whether he's drafted in the second or third round. I think he's going to be a day 2 pick. Had a very impressive NFL Combine. I like taking him on underdog right now in early best balls as a tight end 3 because I do think he's going to have some very fantasy friendly weeks as a rookie. This was a guy that had a very high ADOT at Kansas State. They were passing him downfield, led Kansas State in receiving yards, led Kansas State in receiving touchdowns. So I think Ben Sinnott is very interesting. And at the end of the day, he might get drafted ahead of Jatavian Sanders in the actual NFL draft.
For sure.
Yeah, that would not shock me. I only have a couple picks left, so I feel like this is a range where I would take him anyway. I feel comfortable taking him, but he might fall even further down the board. I mean, he might be a 4th round rookie pick. Give me my guy. This is another flag plant guy for me, Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. Like, the breakout age isn't what we want it to be. I mean, 22.2 technically, 14th percentile. But guys, he was playing at Georgia and Alabama. I don't know if you guys know who like plays for those schools, but the competition is pretty serious. And every single year, over 400 yards receiving, even in his freshman season. And this is a guy who wins in all quadrants of the field. He can win deep down the field as well. And he, like, I don't know what I'm missing really. Like, the route running is there for me. The hands are there for me. The dog is there for me. Like, he's got that in him that he wants to win. And like, I just see that with how he interacts with the opposing player on the sideline. Sometimes it's like, so like really is into the game. Like when I watch him play. So I don't know. I'd be interested to see what Cody thinks of him on the dog rating, but I love Jermaine Burton.
On brand pick for Seth.
Got to go with your guy. I'm actually go with the guy that he's not my guy. And there's a lot of different comps out there for this player, but they all revolve around the same archetype, which is a player that could be very, very productive, especially in PPR. Jalen Polk. I think the NFL is going to like him. And I think that the days of getting him at the end of the 3rd round in your rookie drafts are numbered.
He's got some of the best hands in this class. Like, I hardly ever saw him drop a ball.
He's sure-handed, man.
He's super. Like, it was between him and Burton there at the 308 for me. So that's a fantastic pick. I love Jalen Polk.
I appreciate you leaving.
I would have taken Polk there at the 310, and I think you're right, Matty. This sort of thing where it's sort of like being able to adjust, because Mel Kiper has him going in the 2nd round and fairly early 2nd round in his latest mock draft. So Jalen Polk is one. He just projects to be a wide receiver 2 in the NFL. I don't think he's ever going to be a wide receiver 1, but I think he's the kind of guy that can help a lot of teams as a wide receiver 2. Getting him at the end of the 3rd round, fantastic. I'll go Tyrone Tracy here at the 310. Uber athletic running back, sort of a riser here on Futurecast and with several others. I know Cody's very high on him. Thor Nystrom's very high on him. He was a former wide receiver at Iowa, transfers to Purdue. And I think that sort of a Antonio Gibson-like path is there for him in a certain situation where a team will use that sort of explosiveness out of the backfield as a receiver. And we've seen him be able to be productive in the Big Ten as a runner in a small sample size. So I like the Tyrone Tracy value at the end of the 3rd. Big upside pick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Tyrone Tracy, when I heard that Thor had him, I think he said number 5.
RB5.
RB5. Yeah. I was like, well, that's somebody you listen to in this space for sure. Yeah. That if that doesn't make you kind of perk up and go, there's something to that for sure. I can't let this draft go. And maybe I'm sniping this guy from Matty. And this is just a testament to this draft. And again, go get as many of these 3rd and 4th round rookie picks as you can. Spencer Rattler's still on the board. And I'm going to go ahead and take him at the 311 because it's Superflex. And who knows, man? Who knows where this guy ends up? This could be the 2nd or 3rd round pick that the Raiders make or that the Broncos make, that maybe he doesn't start right away, but he can sit behind, Jarrett Stidham, I guess, or, Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew and just learn and develop. And I think this is a prospect, too, that was humbled when Caleb Williams came into Oklahoma and just took the job right from under him. But guess what? A lot of quarterbacks would have lost their job to Caleb Williams, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So, again, it's 311, quarterback, some upside. I'll take Rattler here.
Seth, we are on the same page. We were both thinking going with the quarterback here at the end of round 3 in the Superflex format, but we weren't thinking about Spencer Rattler. Maybe you were. I'm thinking about Bazooka Joe Milton, Tennessee, 245 pounds, 4.5, 540, laser rocket arm. Someone is going to fall in love with the traits. He will probably be a 4th round pick, I would say. That's kind of what grade I've given him. But the tools are tantalizing, and I think an NFL team's going to give a chance. And in this format, of all the sub top 6 guys, the Spencer Rattlers, Sam Hartmans, Jordan Travis's, Michael Pratt's, Joe Milton's the guy I think can have that Linsanity quarterback run that we've seen from some guys over the last couple of years and cause an absolute value bonanza bazooka for Bazooka Joe.
The Jeremy Lin, Joe Milton comparison is just sicko stuff from Matty Kiwoom. And I will say this is a Futurecast record to see Joe Milton sneak into the end of the third round here. But Matty, hey, if he lands well, people are going to get excited. Never really put it together, Michigan transfer. But like you said, I mean, athletically and the velocity on his throws, you can squint and get excited for sure. Let's recap this third round, guys. Roman Wilson at the 301 to me. Seth took Xavier Legette at the 302. Matty takes Braylon Allen, falls all the way to the 303. I took Tez Walker at the 304. Seth takes Jatavian Sanders, another Futurecast faller. Matty takes Javon Baker, very much his guy. 307, I take Ben Sinnott. We have 3 tight ends go off the board, 2 in the third, and of course Brock Bowers in the first. Seth takes Jermaine Burton at the 308. Matty takes Jalen Polk at the 309. I took Tyrone Tracy at the 310. Seth takes Spencer Rattler at the 311. And we close it out with another quarterback, Joe Milton. Seth, this was a lot of fun today. Let everybody know where they can find your work, what you've got coming out on the Dynasty Roundtable.
Yeah, I'm all over the place, man. You can follow me on Twitter at Seth_DIEWOLD or Diewold, not Diewold. And you can, same thing with my YouTube channel. If you don't know that inside joke, you go watch the Dynasty Roundtable. It has to do with a press box announcer that nobody can really get my name right. So I've just gotten used to it over the years. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can catch all my work at Player Profiler in the article section, playerprofiler.com/fantasy. You can see everything there. It's a really slick new page if you haven't checked that out. Not really new anymore, but doesn't qualify as new, but it's newish.
It's not old.
It's not old. And of course, the Dynasty Roundtable, 7 p.m. Central Time. I believe, Theo, if we've confirmed this, that you are going to be the guest on the Dynasty Roundtable on the 17th, next Wednesday. And then we have Matty Kiwoom and Cody coming on the Wednesday of the draft. If we can, we'll have to figure something out there because I think we have a bowling thing. I don't know if that's on Wednesday or Tuesday, but we'll have to either pre-record or do something, but we'll have an episode for sure. So stay tuned to the Player Profiler YouTube channel for Dynasty Roundtable Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah, highly recommend Seth's work. Highly recommend the Dynasty Roundtable. Yeah, I'm going to be on the Dynasty Roundtable. I'm excited for that one. It's been too long. And a big shout out to everyone who put in work on the Player Profiler Rookie Guide. It is now available to purchase. You can purchase this several ways. If you have the all-in package, you have access to the Rookie Guide already. You can purchase the Rookie Guide alone. You can purchase Dynasty Deluxe. I mean, there's plenty of ways to do this. It's on the site. It's fantastic. You get my rankings. You get Matty Kiwoom's rankings. The Jax Falcone and Chalk of the Undroppables did a combined rankings. Cody Carpentier dropped his rankings and John Lobb. We have player write-ups from people such as Seth, Josh Larkey, Alan Sislowski, Matty and myself, Cody Carpentier. You name it. If you know him from Player Profiler, they probably contributed to this guide. It is visually stunning, and it's going to help you whether you're an NFL draft enthusiast, whether you're trying to get a head start in best ball, or whether you're a dynasty degenerate who wants to crush your rookie drafts. It's no better spot. It's $20. It's worth every single penny. And if you're already a subscriber to Player Profiler, go check it out right now. You have access to that. Matty, what do you have coming up?
I mean, the Rookie Guide's sick. Big shout out to Seth, Jason, you, Theo, Colin, Brittany, everyone that was involved. It was absolutely gorgeous. You got to get it. And you can follow me on X at Matty Kiwoom, like the Player Profiler YouTube channel, and put those notifications on. And now is more important than ever before because just a few days away, the boys will be in Detroit. Me, Seth, Theo, the Podfather, Cody, Alex, Jason, Anand. The boys are getting together in Detroit for the NFL draft weekend, and we are setting the new gold standard for NFL draft coverage coming from a fantasy football platform. It's going to be incredible. We're going to have an NFL desk, a fantasy desk, the couch, boots on the ground at the draft itself. You're not going to want to miss a single minute of it. And guess what? You might be thinking, all of this going on, boys? You got to only be doing it for night 1, right? Wrong. We're doing it for day 2. Oh, you got to be burnt out after 2 days. That's a lot. It's 3 rounds. Psych! We're coming to you for all 3 days of the NFL draft. All 7 rounds will be covered by Player Profiler, and you got to get those notifications on because you cannot miss any of it. Just a few days away.
Can't wait, fellas. We're going to be there soon. Stick with us here at Futurecast. We got you covered. Stick with us here at Player Profiler all week long next week, heading up to the NFL draft. And then, like Matty said, stick with us for your NFL draft coverage. Forget the networks. You play fantasy football, you've come to the right place.
For Theo Gremminger, I'm Matty Kiwoom. Shout out to Big Seth Diewold for joining the show. This is the Futurecast. We'll see you next time. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com. Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.